Gentlemen, what I'm about to say may shock you, but you need to hear it. There is a nightly habit silently enlarging your prostate, night after night, stealing away your rest, your freedom, and even your dignity. I've seen too many men ignore this truth until it was too late, waking up 5, 6, even 8 times a night, chained to the bathroom, exhausted and desperate for relief. This is not simply aging, it is a trap you are walking into without realizing it. My name is Dr. James. I'm a prostate health specialist with over 30 years of experience helping men just like you. I have sat across from countless seniors listening as they shared their fears, their frustrations, and their regrets. I've witnessed men who lost precious years of peace because they ignored small but deadly habits. And I've also seen men in their 80s still sleeping soundly through the night, living free from the constant pull of their bladder because they listened, they acted, and they changed. Here's the surprising truth. The very things most men believe protect their prostate, drinking less water before bed, holding urine until morning, pushing through the discomfort, are exactly the habits that make the problem worse. What feels like control is actually the cause of enlargement. That's why today I want to give you something powerful. Not vague advice, but clear, simple steps that can protect your prostate, restore your comfort, and help you reclaim your nights. And stay with me, because soon I'll reveal the one habit I beg every senior man to change tonight, the habit that could make all the difference for your future. Before we begin, if you haven't subscribed yet, I encourage you to do so and turn on the notification bell. This way you'll never miss another important health message designed to help you live stronger and longer. And if this video speaks to you, type 1 in the comments. If you feel it missed the mark, type 0 so I know how to serve you better. Now let's begin with the very first habit, one that surprises almost every man I meet. Many believe it helps them sleep better at night, but in truth it does the exact opposite. I'm talking about drinking too little water and the hidden damage it causes. 1. Not drinking enough water. Of all the habits I see among seniors, this one breaks my heart the most. Many men, especially after 60, convince themselves that drinking less water will help them avoid those frustrating nighttime trips to the bathroom. It seems logical at first glance. You drink less, you urinate less. But the body doesn't work that way. What actually happens is far more damaging, and it's silently enlarging your prostate. When you deny your body the water it desperately needs, your urine becomes concentrated, thick, and acidic. Imagine pouring vinegar over a wound, how it stings, how it irritates. That is what concentrated urine does to the delicate lining of your bladder and your prostate. Instead of resting peacefully, those tissues are bathed in irritation, and irritation over time becomes inflammation. Inflammation is the spark that fuels prostate enlargement, making every symptom worse: hesitation, dribbling, urgency, even pain. I have sat across from men in my office, men who looked me in the eye and confessed, "Doctor, I hardly drink water anymore. I'm terrified I'll spend the whole night in the bathroom." And I've watched those same men return weeks later, astonished, when I encouraged them to hydrate properly. Their urine became lighter, their urgency calmed, their nights grew more restful. You see, your bladder is not your enemy. Dehydration is. When the bladder suffers, the prostate suffers too. Another danger lies hidden here. Seniors often take medications, blood pressure pills, diuretics, even some for pain, that dry out the body. Without enough water, those side effects intensify. The kidneys strain, the bladder struggles, and the prostate pays the price. A body starved of hydration cannot flush away toxins efficiently. Those toxins linger, building pressure, creating the perfect storm for prostate swelling. But here's the beauty. The solution is simple, gentle, and entirely in your hands. You don't need expensive treatments or complicated routines. All you need is to honor your body's natural thirst. Drink water steadily throughout the day, not in huge gulps, but in small, steady sips. Don't wait until you feel parched. By the time you're thirsty, your body is already dehydrated. Let your urine be your guide. It should be pale yellow or clear, a sign of healthy balance. I know some of you may worry, if I drink more water, won't I spend the whole night getting up? The answer is, not if you do it right. Hydrate generously in the morning and afternoon. Ease back as evening approaches, but don't cut it off completely. A small glass at dinner, perhaps a sip before bed, is enough to keep the body nourished without overwhelming your bladder. Over time, your bladder adjusts, your prostate calms, and those nightly interruptions diminish. So tonight, before you turn off the lights, ask yourself, are you treating water as your friend or your enemy? The choice you make could decide whether you spend your nights in peace or in constant battle with your own body. And speaking of battles, there's another habit many men fall into without realizing: the battle against stillness. Sitting for hours may feel harmless, even comforting, but the hidden damage it does to your prostate will shock you. 2. Sitting for hours. There is a quiet danger hiding in something that feels so ordinary, so harmless, that many men never think twice about it. I'm talking about sitting for hours on end. After retirement, the armchair becomes more inviting, the television keeps us company, a good book holds our attention, and before we know it, hours have passed with our body locked in one position. It feels restful, but what it's doing to your prostate is anything but restful. When you sit too long, all the weight of your body presses down on your pelvic region. That constant pressure is like stepping on a garden hose. You restrict the flow of water. In this case, you restrict the flow of blood, and without proper circulation, the prostate suffers. The tissues grow congested, starved of oxygen, and slowly inflamed. Over time, this inflammation leads to enlargement and the symptoms creep in. A weaker stream, that lingering sensation of never emptying fully, the endless trips to the bathroom. I remember one patient vividly, a kind man in his 70s who loved crossword puzzles. He would sit at his kitchen table for hours each day, pencil in hand, barely moving except to sip his coffee. When he came to see me, he was struggling with severe urinary retention. His bladder could no longer empty properly. Together, we worked on small changes. Every 30 minutes, he stood up, stretched his legs, walked to the window, or simply paced around his living room. Within weeks, the difference was remarkable. His flow improved, his nights grew calmer, and his confidence returned. It's not about giving up your favorite chair or your hobbies. It's about reminding yourself that your body was made for movement. Even gentle movement. 2 minutes of walking, standing to refill your glass of water, stepping outside for fresh air can bring life back to your pelvic floor muscles. Those muscles are the unsung heroes that help you empty your bladder completely. When they weaken from inactivity, leftover urine lingers, irritating the prostate further. But when you keep them engaged through small bursts of activity, you give your body the strength to function the way it was designed. Think of your circulation like a river. A river that flows freely keeps everything clean and healthy. But a river that stagnates becomes murky, breeding problems. That is what long hours of sitting do inside your body. They create stagnation, and stagnation is the enemy of health. So the next time you find yourself settled in for a long stretch in front of the television or absorbed in a novel, set a simple rule for yourself. Every half hour, rise. Take a few steps. Let your body remember it's alive, it's strong, and it needs to move. These tiny interruptions can be the difference between a prostate weighed down by pressure and a prostate that continues to serve you with dignity. But sitting isn't the only daily comfort that hides a secret cost. There's something else, something millions of men savor each morning without realizing it may be fueling their discomfort. And that is the very drink we call our daily ritual. Coffee. 3. Too much coffee or caffeine. Coffee has long been called the American fuel. For decades, it's been poured into our mugs first thing in the morning, shared with friends after church, or sipped quietly as we read the newspaper. It's warm, it's comforting, and for many men, it feels like an old friend. But when it comes to your prostate, that old friend can easily turn into a quiet enemy. Too much coffee, or too much caffeine of any kind, is like pouring gasoline on a fire that is already smoldering in your bladder and prostate. Caffeine is a natural diuretic, which means it pushes your body to produce more urine. At first, this might not seem like a problem, but if your prostate is already sensitive, Already pressing against your bladder, that extra urine forces your system to work harder. The bladder contracts more often, the urgency builds stronger, and suddenly you find yourself running to the bathroom again and again. On top of that, caffeine tightens the muscles around the neck of your bladder, the very passage where urine is supposed to flow freely. So not only does caffeine make you go more often, it also makes it harder to fully empty. What's left behind irritates the prostate, feeding the cycle of inflammation. I remember speaking with a gentleman in his late 60s, a retired teacher, who swore by his 3 big cups of coffee every day. He told me it was the only way he could get going. But he also admitted he dreaded leaving the house because he never trusted his bladder. Together, we made one small adjustment. He cut down to a single small cup in the morning, then switched to herbal tea in the afternoon. Within just a few weeks, his urgency eased, his nights became calmer, and for the first time in years, he felt comfortable taking long drives again. He didn't lose coffee entirely, but he found balance, and his prostate thanked him. I know coffee feels like a ritual, even a pleasure that defines the start of your day, and I'm not telling you to strip away every joy, but I am asking you to look honestly at how much you consume. One small cup can be enjoyed without much trouble. But several cups, or strong caffeinated sodas or energy drinks that sneak into your routine, those choices silently put pressure on a body that is already working hard enough. Moderation is not about deprivation, it is about freedom. The freedom to live without that constant gnawing urgency. So tomorrow morning, as you reach for that second or third cup, ask yourself, is this helping me or is it chaining me closer to the bathroom? The answer might surprise you. And while we're talking about what goes into our bodies, there is another danger many men overlook. It's not found in a cup, but on the dinner table, spicy foods and processed meals that taste good in the moment but quietly inflame the prostate day after day. 4. Overly spicy or processed foods. Food is one of life's greatest joys. A hearty meal shared with family, a favorite dish prepared with care, the comfort of flavors we've grown up with. These are memories that live in the heart as much as they live on the tongue. But there's a hidden truth many men don't realize. The very foods that bring us comfort can also quietly fuel the discomfort we feel at night. I'm talking about overly spicy meals and heavily processed foods, 2 culprits that inflame the prostate in ways most men never expect. Spices in moderation can be delightful, even healthy. But when your plate is piled with hot peppers, heavy sauces, and sharp seasonings day after day, your body responds with inflammation. It's like striking a match inside a place that is already sensitive. The bladder becomes more irritable, the prostate swells, and the urgency builds. That fiery taste that feels so satisfying on your tongue can become a slow-burning fire in your lower body, leaving you restless and frustrated when you should be at peace. And then there are processed foods. Chips, frozen dinners, fast food, cold cuts, bacon, sausages. They are quick, they are convenient, and yes, they taste good in the moment. But inside, they are filled with preservatives, additives, and unhealthy fats that throw your entire system out of balance. The high salt content makes your body retain water, putting pressure on your bladder. The chemical additives confuse your hormones, especially testosterone, which plays a critical role in prostate health. Over time, this chemical storm creates the perfect environment for swelling, for obstruction, for nights of broken sleep and days of exhaustion. I once treated a man who proudly told me he ate fast food nearly every day. "Doctor," he said, "I don't cook anymore. It's just easier." But his nights were a nightmare, constant trips to the bathroom, never feeling empty, always tired. We made one small change. He swapped his frozen dinners for fresh meals a few nights a week. Vegetables, fish, a handful of nuts, even a simple salad. Within a month, his symptoms eased. Within 3 months, he felt like a new man. He didn't give up all his favorites, but he found balance, and balance gave him relief. The truth is, your prostate doesn't ask for perfection, it asks for care. When you choose fresh over packaged, balance over excess, you send a message to your body. I respect you, I want you to serve me well, I want to live in comfort. And your body listens. Inflammation eases, hormones steady, and suddenly those long nights filled with bathroom visits begin to fade. But food is not the only daily choice that carries hidden costs. There is another habit, one nearly every man has been guilty of at some point, that can do more harm than you realize. It's the simple act of holding in your urine, and the damage it does may shock you. 5. Smoking or being around smokers. There are few things I warn my patients about more urgently than this one. Smoking, and even being around those who smoke, is one of the most damaging habits you can allow into your life. I know many men who grew up in a time when cigarettes were everywhere, at work, at home, even in hospitals. Back then it was normal, it was social, it was a part of daily life. But what we didn't realize was the quiet destruction it was leaving behind in our bodies, especially in the prostate. Every puff of smoke carries with it thousands of chemicals, and those chemicals do more than sting your lungs. They cut off circulation, inflame delicate tissues, and bathe your prostate in toxins it was never meant to endure. I've seen men who never smoked a cigarette themselves but lived for decades with a spouse or close friends who did. Their prostate health suffered all the same. Secondhand smoke is not harmless. It still damages blood vessels, still weakens the body's defenses, still creates the kind of silent inflammation that makes your prostate grow larger and more irritable with each passing year. Smoking also steals away your natural antioxidants, the very protectors that your body relies on to repair itself. Without them, the prostate has no shield against stress and irritation. It's like sending a soldier into battle with no armor. One patient of mine, a man in his 70s, told me with tears in his eyes that he wished he had listened sooner. He smoked for over 40 years, and though he eventually quit, the damage was already done. He struggled with painful urination, constant infections, and a prostate so enlarged that surgery became his only option. "Doctor," he said, "if I could go back and talk to my younger self, I would beg him to put the pack down." His story is not meant to frighten you, it is meant to awaken you. Because unlike some health risks we cannot change, this one is fully within your control. And here is the good news. The moment you quit smoking, your body begins to heal. Within weeks, circulation improves, inflammation decreases, and the prostate finally gets the oxygen and nutrients it has been starved of. Even if you smoked for decades, stopping now can still bring relief, still protect you from further damage. And if you never smoked, I urge you to avoid smoky rooms altogether. Do not let someone else's habit rob you of your health. Your body deserves better, and your future depends on the choices you make today. But tobacco is not the only danger men ignore. There's another risk that sneaks in quietly, not from smoke, but from silence. The silence of skipping doctor visits. Many men avoid checkups thinking they are fine until it's too late. And what those missed appointments can cost you is something I cannot let you overlook. 6. Holding in urine. It may sound like such a small thing, something every man has done 100 times without thinking. Holding in urine. Maybe you're in the middle of a movie and don't want to miss the ending. Maybe you're on a long drive and the next rest stop is miles away. Maybe you simply don't feel like getting out of your chair. Whatever the reason, you tell yourself, "I'll wait a little longer." But what feels like harmless convenience is quietly punishing your prostate more than you realize. When you ignore your body's signal and force your bladder to hold more than it should, that bladder stretches like an overfilled balloon. And where does all that pressure go? Right down on your prostate, the small gland sitting just below it. Over time, that constant squeezing irritates the delicate tissues, fueling swelling and enlargement. Worse yet, when you finally do make it to the bathroom, your bladder muscles, tired and strained from the weight, often cannot push everything out. And so urine remains behind, stagnant, the perfect breeding ground for bacteria and inflammation. This is how infections take root. This is how discomfort grows. This is how your prostate begins to feel the weight of every delayed decision. I once had a patient, a retired bus driver, who told me he had spent years holding it in on long routes. He said it became second nature to ignore the urge until the trip was done. By the time he came to me, he was dealing with chronic infections and a prostate so irritated that even sitting became uncomfortable. His story is a lesson for every man who thinks waiting just a little longer does no harm. It does. It always does. But here's the truth that should encourage you. Your body is remarkably forgiving when you start treating it with respect. Simply listening to your urge, honoring your body's natural call to empty the bladder, can make an enormous difference. It's one of the simplest acts of self-care, yet one of the most powerful. Think of it not as an inconvenience, but as an act of protection. Each time you respond promptly, you are sparing your prostate from unnecessary strain. You are choosing health over habit, prevention over procrastination. So the next time you feel the signal, don't brush it aside. Get up, go, and know that in that small action, you are taking a stand for your comfort, your dignity, and your future. Because your bladder and your prostate are partners. They rise and fall together. If one suffers, the other will follow. But ignoring the urge to go is not the only choice that slowly damages your prostate. There is another threat, one that doesn't come from inside your body, but from the air around you. And if you think avoiding smoke is just about protecting your lungs, wait until you hear what it does to your prostate. 7. Avoiding doctor visits. There is a habit I see far too often among older men, and it is perhaps one of the most dangerous of all: not going to the doctor until the pain is unbearable. I understand why it happens. Many of you grew up in a time when men were taught to tough it out, to keep silent about discomfort, to prove strength by never asking for help. Others feel embarrassed to talk about personal issues, especially when it comes to urination or prostate health. And some simply convince themselves that as long as they can get through the day, nothing serious is happening. But the truth is, the prostate has a way of growing quietly in the dark, without warning, until the situation becomes far more serious than it ever needed to be. I have lost count of how many times a man has walked into my office only after years of silent suffering. By then, the bladder may be stretched, infections may have set in, or the prostate may have grown so large that surgery is the only option left. These men look at me with regret in their eyes and say, "Doctor, I wish I had come sooner." And I wish they had too, because so much of what I do as a physician is not about treating emergencies, it's about preventing them. A simple annual visit, a quick exam, a PSA blood test. These small checkups can catch issues long before they spiral out of control. Sometimes all that is needed is a small lifestyle adjustment, a bit of medication, or even reassurance that everything is on track. But when those visits are avoided, what might have been a small correction becomes a mountain to climb. Early detection is not just a medical phrase, it is the difference between a restful night and a restless one, between simple changes and complicated treatments, between peace of mind and constant worry. One of my most inspiring patients was an 82-year-old gentleman who never skipped his yearly checkups. He told me, "Doctor, I don't go because I'm sick. I go because I want to stay well." That attitude gave him years of freedom. While many of his peers were struggling with catheters and medications, he was still enjoying long walks with his wife, still traveling, still living life fully. His secret wasn't luck, it was vigilance. So let me speak to you directly. Don't let pride or fear keep you away from the doctor's office. A half-hour appointment once a year can save you from years of suffering. It is not a weakness to get checked. It is one of the strongest, most responsible things you can do. For yourself, for your family, for the life you still want to enjoy. But even the best medical visits cannot undo all the harm if your daily choices keep fueling the fire. And one of the biggest culprits sits right on the dinner plate: red meat eaten in excess day after day. What it does to your prostate may surprise you. 8. Eating red meat excessively. For many men, red meat has been a symbol of strength, of tradition, of family gatherings around the grill. A steak sizzling on the barbecue, a burger shared with friends, bacon crisping in the pan. These are the flavors of comfort, the foods that remind us of home. But too much of this familiar comfort, especially when eaten day after day, carries a hidden cost that most men never connect to their prostate. The truth is that excessive red meat, particularly processed meats like sausage, bacon, and cold cuts, quietly fuels inflammation that enlarges the prostate and steals away your peace. Red meat is rich in saturated fats, and as we age, our bodies process those fats less efficiently. Instead of fueling us with energy, they burden our digestion, slow down our metabolism, and add unnecessary weight around the belly. That extra weight presses down on the pelvic organs, increasing pressure on the bladder and prostate. Inside, the saturated fats and chemical preservatives spark inflammation, disrupt hormone balance, and create an environment where the prostate begins to swell. What once seemed like a hearty meal now becomes another step toward restless nights and urgent mornings. I remember speaking with a man in his early 70s who admitted proudly that he ate red meat every single day. He said it gave him strength, reminded him of his youth. But he also confessed that he was waking up 6 or 7 times each night, exhausted and frustrated. When we reduced his red meat to just twice a week and replaced the other meals with chicken, fish, beans, and vegetables, the change was dramatic. Within 2 months, his nights were calmer, his energy returned, and he told me he felt lighter in body and in spirit. He didn't have to give up the foods he loved, he simply learned moderation, and his prostate responded with gratitude. This isn't about denying yourself joy. It's about choosing balance over excess. A steak once or twice a week can be enjoyed without harm, but when your daily plate is heavy with red meat and processed cuts, your prostate bears the burden. Instead, let your meals be an opportunity for healing. A bowl of lentil soup, a grilled piece of salmon, a colorful plate of vegetables. These choices nourish your body without inflaming it. Over time, they restore balance to your hormones, ease strain on your prostate, and give you the freedom to enjoy your days without constant interruption. So the next time you sit down to a meal, ask yourself, is this food building me up or breaking me down? The answer may shape not only how you feel tonight, but how you live for years to come. And speaking of burdens carried quietly, there is another danger that shows itself not on your plate, but around your waist. Excess belly fat may look like just a few extra pounds, but inside it is sending powerful signals that can inflame and enlarge your prostate in ways you might not expect. 9. Carrying excess belly fat. Many men shrug off a growing belly as just part of getting older. They call it a spare tire, a little extra weight, nothing to be too concerned about. But inside, that belly fat is far more than an inconvenience. It is an active, living factory of inflammation, sending out chemical signals that irritate your prostate day and night. Each pound around your waist isn't just sitting there. It's pressing against your bladder, straining your pelvic organs, and fueling hormonal imbalances that quietly enlarge your prostate. I have seen men who carried this extra weight for years finally admit how much it stole from them. Not only their health, but their confidence, their energy, even their ability to enjoy life's simple pleasures. And yet the encouraging truth is that change does not have to be overwhelming. You don't need to shed decades of weight overnight. Even a small reduction, a few pounds lost, a few inches trimmed from the waist, can make a dramatic difference. The pressure lessens, the urgency eases, and the body begins to heal itself. Simple walks after dinner, smaller portions at mealtime, cutting back on sugary snacks. These are not punishments, but gifts you give yourself. Your waistline is not just about appearance. It is a direct message about your prostate's future. Keep it under control and you give yourself freedom. Let it expand unchecked and you invite discomfort to rule your nights. But while belly fat is something you can see and measure, there is another danger that hides invisibly. It is not on your body, but within your mind, chronic stress. And what stress does to the prostate is perhaps the most underestimated danger of them all. 10. Not managing chronic stress. There is one hidden force that can inflame your prostate more than any food, more than any habit, and yet most men ignore it. That force is chronic stress. You may not see it, but you feel it. Worries about health, finances, family, or the uncertainty of the future. Stress lingers like a shadow, tightening your body, flooding you with hormones like cortisol, and keeping your prostate in a constant state of irritation. Over time, this pressure builds silently, just as surely as smoke feeds a fire. I have seen men who never smoked, who ate well, who stayed active, but who carried their stress like a heavy stone every day. They clenched their jaws, tightened their muscles, pushed their worries down, and their prostate bore the cost. The urgency, the discomfort, the sleepless nights, it all grew worse because their bodies were trapped in survival mode. But the body does not heal in survival. It heals in peace. The beautiful truth is that even small steps can release this weight. A short walk at sunset, a few minutes of deep breathing, quiet prayer, laughter with loved ones, these moments are not luxuries, they are medicine. Stress may not vanish, but you can choose how you respond, and in doing so, you give your prostate the calm environment it needs to recover. So I ask you, if stress has been your silent companion, what would your life look like if you finally set it down? Because in the conclusion, I will show you how each of these small choices can come together to create freedom, dignity, and comfort in your later years. Conclusion. Gentlemen, we have walked through 10 habits that may seem small on the surface but carry enormous weight for your prostate health. Not drinking enough water, sitting too long, relying on too much caffeine, choosing spicy or processed foods, holding in urine, smoking or inhaling smoke, skipping doctor visits, eating too much red meat, carrying excess belly fat, and living under constant stress. Each of these quietly chips away at your comfort, your freedom, your dignity. But the message I want you to take with you is one of hope. Change does not require perfection, only consistency. Every glass of water, every walk, every lighter meal, every deep breath is a step toward healing. The choice is yours, starting tonight. Will you let these habits control your future, or will you take back control and give yourself the life of peace you truly deserve?